wonderful humans on the internet. My name is Courtney. If you don't know me, I work with families. I have worked with families for about close to 15 years now. Have been in full-time work with families for the last 12 years. And man, do I love parents. I think parents are the most wonderful people on the face of the earth, even when they mess up. And so this particular series that I'm introducing on my YouTube channel is for you, parents. It's not for your kids, it's for you. In this series, I'm going to be reviewing all sorts of material. I'm going to be reviewing parenting books. I'm going to be reviewing resources for you to use with your kids. I'm going to be reviewing podcasts and apps and anything that is designed to be used by parents either for yourself or in use with your children. And so today, for my very first episode, I am going to be talking about this lovely book, Parenting from the Inside Out by Dr. Dan Siegel. So I will probably review a lot of books by Dan Siegel because he's written a lot of books. But this one is my personal favorite and a must read for every parent, no matter how old your children are. Even if you are not a parent yet, this is a must read. In this book, Dr. Siegel gets into really what's happening in us when we are raising these young humans and the different ways that we get triggered. So I'm just going to read the chapter titles really quick so you get a general overview of the book, and then I'm going to tell you why I love this book so much and read one of my favorite quotes from it. So the chapters go in this order: how we remember, experience shapes who we are; how we perceive reality, constructing the stories of our lives; how we feel, emotion in our internal and interpersonal worlds; how we communicate, making connections; how we attach, relationships between children and parents; Chapter 6, how we make sense of our lives, adult attachment; Chapter 7, how we keep it together and how we fall apart, the high road and the low road; Chapter 8, how we disconnect and reconnect, rupture and repair; and then finally Chapter 9, how we develop mind sight, compassion and reflective dialogues. So those chapter overviews, they might sound pretty loaded, or you might not know what some of those concepts are. I promise you that they are worth reading about. The basic concept of this book is that many of the reactions that we have to our children, or even to other people's children, have less to do with the kids and more to do with us and our own experiences. And the more aware we become of how our experiences have shaped us, the way that we think, the own struggles that we have, and the more we work on those things ourselves, the more patient and aware we can become as we help to train these young humans into healthy, productive adults who can have healthy relationships with others, who can have healthy relationships with us. And so one of my favorite quotes comes really early on in the book. It's actually in chapter 1. And I've read this book 3 times now, I think, and I find something new in it to love every time. I don't love all of it. I'm going to say that right up front. You will not love everything that you read if you read something that I recommend. You will not love everything that you read in general, but there's always something really beneficial in most of these resources that I'll be reviewing. And we might disagree on those things, but that's okay. So here's one of my favorite quotes from chapter 1. This unresolved issue presented itself to me as a vulnerable first-time parent, and I had intense and shameful emotional responses to my son's crying and his vulnerability, almost finding it intolerable, and to my sense of helplessness to soothe him. Fortunately, through painful self-reflection, I was able to see this as an unresolved issue in myself and not as a deficit in my son. Even with love and the best of intentions, we may be filled with old defenses that make our children's experiences intolerable to us. When their lives provoke the intolerable emotion in us, our inability to be aware of it consciously and to make sense of it in our own lives leaves us at risk of being unable to tolerate it in our children. And then about a paragraph later, he says, by understanding ourselves, we give our children the chance to develop their own sense of vitality and the freedom to experience their own emotional worlds without restrictions and fear. Now, that last bit might trigger a few people. I want to make it very clear that in none of his books does Dr. Siegel state that children should not have restrictions or boundaries, but that when we place our personal emotional restrictions based on our own negative life experiences on our children, we are not helping them learn how to cope with their own emotions. And so there's some nuance there, but this is in my must-read list for every parent. Again, it's called Parenting from the Inside Out by Dr. Dan Siegel. You can find it on Amazon or wherever you like to buy your books. There are also audio versions available if you prefer that. Feel free to drop any questions in the comments. I'm going to have comments on for this series, and if there are any specific resources that you would like me to review, feel free. Just a quick background on why I decided to do this before I sign off for the day. A few weeks ago, I was looking at these books online, books written for children about really hard things that are meant for parents to read with their kids and to start discussions, books about depression, anxiety, racism. And I was like, man, I wish I knew if these books were any good. Like, why don't I know anyone who's talking about these books? I wish someone would buy them and tell me. And then I realized I can do that. I can buy these books. I can let people know what they're like and help people decide for themselves if it's a resource they want to use. So there will be things that I review that are new to me, but this one's an oldie and a goodie. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you check it out, and I will see you next time. Blessings to you all.